All right, praise the Lord and hello, friends and family. Welcome to this edition of today's Truth Revealed. I am your host, Elder Gibbs. I'm so glad that you took a moment out of your day to give us a listen. We're very excited tonight because I have a very good friend of mine on the program tonight, and we met a few years ago because we have a common interest, the USS Liberty, which we will talk a little bit about tonight. But our subject tonight is about the power of the Israel lobby. And before we go any further, I'd like to go into a word of prayer, like I always do. If you don't mind, Ken, we'll go into
Oh,
prayer and then we'll cut you loose. All right. So, Father, we just want to thank you for your goodness, mercy, and kindness. We thank you for our guests coming on. We ask that the listeners are blessed from what they hear tonight, Lord God. We just thank you for what you're going to do. We ask that you open doors, open ears for understanding, Lord. We just ask that you have your way. In Jesus' name, amen.
amen.
Thank you. So, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you and introduce my good friend, Ken from the Bronx, and his name is Ken Reynolds. And I'm so glad that you took a moment out of your day to come on, Ken. Welcome to today's Truth Revealed. Welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. So, as I stated, we're going to talk a little bit. Ken pretty much impressed me a few years ago because he stood up in a crowd of people and he read a little bit about the power of the Israel lobby. And I said, wow, there's a man that knows something that a lot of people do not know. A lot of people don't know about, they don't even know about lobbying groups. I'll just tell you this real quick. Doctor I used to follow, her name was Lorraine Day or Laura Day. She married a congressman. I forget what state, and he became a congressman. And they sat him down. This is her words. You know, this is her husband told her this. Sat her down and said when he won the election, said, "Where would you like to receive money from?" And he said, "Receive money from my paycheck. What do you mean?" And they said, "No, no. Which lobbying group would you like for us to contact so that we can receive money from them if you're gonna, these special interest groups?" So the lobbying period, I mean, you can have natural lobbying for the country, right? That are good things sometimes. Like if someone's in environmental lobbying groups and they're fighting for like fresh water, fish, and all of that, that's a good thing. But the Israel lobby, that's a whole different thing. Tell us about that, Ken, if you don't
Well,
mind.
their whole purpose is fighting for Israel. Now, per se, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's everything wrong when that's all they're concerned about. That is their obsession. That is their raison d'etre, as the French say. Without Israel, the Israel lobby just disappears. And they use a lot of very unethical tactics, to say the least. We can use even a stronger word than unethical. But uh, everything goes with them with fighting for Israel. And even the book that we both read, The Israel Lobby and U.S. Foreign Policy, cites several of these people who are either, there's no formal organization called the Israel Lobby. It's just like extant, where all these different Jewish activist groups form into a collective lobby. And what they do is make sure, one, all of the US tax money that goes to Israel keeps going there. It varies every year, but around 4 billion. That includes military and economic aid, about 4 billion. But then they have all these other packages, and they want now a 20 years. I don't know if you came across this, a 20 years security pact.
Wow.
I mean, you talk about a lifelong commitment. So the lobby is make sure all the money and all the aid keeps going from Washington to Jerusalem, now their capital, not Tel Aviv. And this is the main thing. And I think the really odious activity of this lobby they always cover for their government, no matter what they do. It's as if they are never wrong. And that is what I think got a lot of us, me and you included, into learning more about how they operate and their methods and their contacts, their operations, and the money behind them. And that is what is, in my opinion, most despicable about the Israel lobby, that no matter what they do, Gaza, I think, really opened up a lot of eyes. Yes. And now with alternative media and non-establishment media like this, big and small, especially the younger generation who is more involved with this, they've learned now about these things, about these horrible crimes. I don't know if you heard, the government of Turkey just issued an arrest warrant for Israel's prime minister, Bibi Netanyahu. Is it big news, though? I forget. I think it was paulcraigroberts.org. I recommend going on his site. He monitors the lobby a lot. He reported that a few days ago. So just the power they hold and the money that they have. And Christ said, there's nothing hidden that won't be revealed. So there's a lot more to be revealed as time goes on. But the Israel lobby just, our country, our government over there, our state, we're never wrong. The only time we're wrong is when we're not bombing enough, not killing enough, not being tough enough. But everything else is on the table. And this is what I think is their most depraved behavior and practice.
Yeah. So I'm looking, I wrote a couple of notes down, but I don't think people really grasp the understanding of how much money and power the Israel lobby has. And the fact that we think that policies come from Washington, but if people are paid off and bought off, are the policies actually American policies? Are they actually America first policies? We see now this now enemy of the president now, this what's her name, Green, uh, because she's waking up, and now she's enemy number one to the president because she has even woken up and said, I'm American first. I've been American first. I thought we all were American first. Not that I agree with everything she said. I'm not I'm not a guy that's for this or that, but I'm just,
on this
when
issue,
people
she's
wake up,
woken
it's
up, like
amazing.
you just said.
Yeah. And did Charlie Kirk wake up? Maybe. So yeah, I don't think people understand that.
You just mentioned Charlie Kirk. I don't know if you're familiar with this newsletter, Last Trumpet newsletter. It's
Oh
published out
God,
of
yeah.
Wisconsin. You know it.
Are you kidding? Pastor Myers?
Right. Well, okay. Well,
Wow.
it's not as good as it used to be when his
Because
pop,
he died. Yeah.
unfortunately. We lost a
Yeah.
real Christian soldier and watchman and activist there, too young. He didn't even make 60. So
Yeah.
anyway, the son, Sammy, prints this newsletter, and it's pretty good. He does a lot of work putting it together,
Yeah.
sends it out, no charge. And we can read it off the web also.
Yeah.
So he mentioned about Charlie Kirk in the October issue that I just finished today. And so here it is. He's speaking in front of about 3,000 people at this, how is it pronounced? Is it Orem University in Utah? OREM?
I think so, yeah.
Orem, Utah. And all these young college kids are going to his Turning Point USA conferences and discussions. And he used to be, to my knowledge, always, Israel, our ally, the only democracy in the Middle East, all of this stuff. And over the last year or so, I think, he was starting to question that. Not like Hamas, let's wipe all the Jews off the Middle East or whatever like that. But he was questioning this so-called alliance, this so-called relationship between America and Israel. So, according to the report in the October issue of LTN for short, he was asked a question about mass shootings, I guess like on campuses and in schools.
Wow.
And at that instant, as he was replying to that question, is when he was shot. And obviously, it's a professional job. I don't believe this Tyler Robinson did this on his own. And there's another site that I recommend you go on if you're unfamiliar with it. And those who, with today's truth revealed, is informationliberation.com. Chris Menahan runs that site. He's out of Maryland. And right now, apart from Mike Jones at Culture Wars magazine and the website culturewars.com, he really monitors whatever we want to call this group of Jews and their non-Jewish supporters, like Mike Huckabee.
Yeah.
I mean,
God, they can do no wrong to Mike. Nothing.
I thought he may have been having a Kirk moment for a while. So anyway, Kirk, I think, was reevaluating the Turning Point USA position as far as what should be the relationship between America and Israel. And I really believe there's strong possibilities that this was, again, another Mossad hit, because he had so many people, young people, questioning now the Israel is always right and the Israel lobby propaganda line. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think it's possible.
Well, I think you're 100% right. And the whole thing about the Mossad is this is how you know it's the Mossad. First of all, hours after the shot, after it wasn't even dead yet, Netanyahu's somewhere saying Israel had nothing to do with this. Now, when they murder someone in the Bronx, Ken, do you call the police station and say, it wasn't me? If it wasn't you, you don't worry about it, right? You wait till they find who did it. Why was he standing up saying, wasn't us? And then again, I asked my friend, my dad was a hunter. He didn't like the 30-06. He liked the 30-30. But my friend who hunts, I said, hey, just curious, how fast can you break down a 30-06? And he told me about 15 minutes. And that's doing good. Now they say this guy broke down this gun and reassembled it, the whole story. And the thing about what the fingerprints of the Mossad is just like a lot of other things that happen. They did it, but they leave the evidence like so sketchy that it's hard to like put, there it is, there's the thing. People like you and me can see it a mile away, but most people are like, no, I don't believe that, because they got the killer, just like they got the killer from the book suppository with Kennedy, another guy that took money from the Mossad to get elected. Once you receive money from them, they own you. And then it's an insult if you don't do everything that they want you to do. And then I heard somebody say, the first is to try and bribe you. Then they threaten you. And then the last, they kill you. And that's it. But it's a professional hit. It is so done so cleverly that it is hard to detect. But people like you, Ken, and sometimes even me, we have eyes to see these things. We have a nose that's like, no, that looks familiar. That looks familiar. Sorry about that, but go ahead.
There's a history, let's say, with Kirk. And I mean, just looking at this kid, 22 years old, and he's like 100 pounds dripping wet, and he takes a rifle like that. I'm not a gun guy, so I mean, I was on NYPD for a while, but we had the old pea shooter 38s. So, I've never had a rifle or anything like that, but to hit a target like that from a distance, that's a professional hit. And no
Yes.
way is this guy that caliber of a shot.
Yeah.
Like you just mentioned about disassembling the rifle, I guess.
Yeah.
The whole story, I mean, and it's all off the news. It wasn't, how did they even, what was the evidence? I mean,
Yeah.
oh, he said something about, oh, the guy's a hater, and I got tired of his hate, and that's the reason why you would shoot him. All of the evidence, well, who's the prime suspect here? Since
Yeah.
Kirk is a huge influence on probably millions of young people now, and it was growing. The influence
Yes.
was growing, and now the Israelis, the Israel lobby in particular, this maniac prime minister over there in Israel, they're saying, oh, he's going to get all these young people to turn against Israel. Not turn
Yep.
against Israel, it's just when they're wrong, they're wrong. You know, when I'm
Mm-hmm.
wrong, I'm wrong. When you're wrong, you're wrong. When your son is wrong, he's wrong.
Yes.
But no, when it comes to Israel, this is God on earth. This is
Yeah.
what they want everybody to believe. They're never wrong. But their morality is just that they're the Jewish state. And as long
Yeah.
as whatever they do benefits them or protects them or helps their state, that's their morality. And that's the
Yeah.
Israel lobby, like, reasoning for always fighting for them and
Wow.
never ever questioning whatever they do.
All right. So the question we always got to ask, like, what changes or who benefits from certain things from happening, right? So let's go back to Kennedy. All right. All right. So he had a problem with the Israel lobby, right? He wanted them to register
Right,
as what is it, FARA? He
right.
wanted them to register. There's no other government that has a lobbying group here in America like Israel. Oh,
That,
our closest ally. We'll let them just be here and lobby just like people lobbying for tobacco or the environment. They can lobby just like that. That's not supposed to be. So Kennedy had a problem with that. And all of a sudden, when he died, instantly his, vice president, who's the worst president in our history,
I
the
agree.
biggest racist, and from the Liberty, how bad he was, but that's all tied in. Instantly, that changed. He gave them leeway. So what, like you said, Charlie Kirk's influencing these people. All right, and he's changing his mind. If you could see, I don't know if you saw that interview with him and Megan, and they were talking about it and how upset he was getting. Charlie Kirk sat down across from people who cursed him, and he was just cool as a cucumber, right? He sat down one day, and the guy told him, he said, "Hey, what's your name?" He said, "My name's none of your business." And he said, "I'm so happy to meet you, none of your business. Hey, what are we going to talk?" It was just so cool. But yet on Megan, they were talking about the pressure that he was getting from these people talking about, you got to support Israel, you got to stop this, you got to, because he had Tucker Carlson on his platform at a thing he held back in June or July. They were very upset about that. So they're like trying to reel him back. And he's like, why? What's the harm? What's going on? Why can't we criticize some things? Maybe there is something here. Well, now he's gone. Now that talk is all gone. He was the biggest supporter of Israel. Our president said it. So all of his questions die with him. His wife certainly isn't going to have any questions about Israel. And now he was going to those places on campuses where the minds, that's the next generation.
Exactly.
So they don't want to lose that. They don't want to lose that.
That
Now they went after,
generation
go ahead.
grows up, they go to law school, they go
Yep.
to school for getting elected to office, they affect policy. So this is probably what the lobby and Mossad, they work together. And
Yep.
yes, I don't know, again, informationliberation.com. Menahan reported on that site that about 2 months before Kirk was killed, he met Bill Ackman.
Yes.
So you're familiar with him. So he's a billionaire Jew, and however they make these billions with hedge funds and Larry Fink and Steve Schwartzman, and the list goes on and on and on. So he invited Kirk to his mansion in the Hamptons. You heard about this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, but some
So,
people haven't.
and Kirk like gave some comment about this meeting. Now, I don't think he should have went, first of all, because it obviously was a bribe.
Yeah.
And Ackman reportedly, Kirk said he felt very uncomfortable at this meeting. He felt like he was getting blackmailed, threatened. Now, I get, the blackmail. Look, I'll give you and your organization all this money, but lay off Israel.
Yep.
And Kirk replied whatever he did. Threatened. Well, what does that mean? Threatening his safety, threatening his family, his life, his livelihood, his organization. That wasn't specified. But here it is, not long after that meeting with Bill Ackman, he's murdered. And
Wow.
Again, Pastor, we people who study these people and get informed about them, they consider themselves God. It's an ethnic worship, it's a tribal worship, and that's why they're above the law. If they did murder Kirk, and I think there's strong evidence that they did, and they had the motive.
Mm-hmm.
Bibi had the motive, and the lobby had the motive. It's all justified because now it's good for Israel. That's how they justify everything. That's how the Israel lobby justifies virtually everything. It's good for Israel, and that's all that matters. And just to conclude this point, the so-called Christian Zionists, and they're a big problem why we have an Israel lobby, an unaccountable Israel lobby. And it's really oxymoronic. You can't be Christian and be a Zionist. And Zionists certainly aren't Christians. Their God is not the God of Israel, who we just prayed to, opening up this presentation, this discussion. Their God is the nation of Israel. Mm-hmm. That is the God that they worship and the people of that nation. Mm-hmm. And this is what has to be really drilled in to a lot of people, that's why, again, you criticize their government, what they're doing to other people, even to their own people. About 1 million Israelis have fled Israel since the invasion into Gaza. So it's a cauldron of just horrible, unspeakable violence. Well, again, but it's protecting Israel. We have to destroy Hamas. We have to destroy Hezbollah. Everything is on the table. There's no morality. There's no right or wrong. There's no just war principles or anything. And because this is their false god, Star of Remphan, like you reminded me of at the Liberty Reunion last year, this is their god, and it's a whole different set of morality. These are not Jews, Pastor, who hate Christ. They even hate Christ, God the Father. Yeah. Everything is justified by tribalism and Jewish supremacy and, never again, the never again syndrome. Mm-hmm. So that, I think, is what we have to denounce, like we're hopefully doing it now, to get people to realize that no nation is God, no people are God. God is God all by himself. Yep. And we always have to be reminded of that.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. There's a religious side to this that the Christian Zionists, per se, unfortunately, so even that is getting weeded out with this younger generation. Yes. Younger Christians are waking up and they realize, wait a minute, this is something's not right here. you know. And this is what they don't, the religious side of things. The religious side is the same principles that the Pharisees had against Christ.
Yep.
It's the same thing. And what Christ said, your commandments are not the commandments of God, but they are of
Of men.
men. And guess what? You are they what happened is they bought they swallowed the hook and everything that Satan was selling in the garden. He said, you can be like gods. He told Eve, you can be like gods. And they, in their own writings, they have something in their Babylonian Talmud where it says that God consults with the rabbis. So when God gets confused, he goes and consults with rabbis. Have you ever heard anything so foolish? So God, who created all of this, gets a little bit, I'm not really sure what I should do. Let me call Rabbi so and so and get some advice from him. You see how, but this is literally in their most holy book. And here's one more point. Most that are over there in Israel, not one drop of Hebrew blood in them, not one drop. Most of them are what they call Khazarian Jews. So they're not even real Jews. They're not even Semitic. So they're
That's theoretical. That may be
yeah,
true. I know
yeah,
about this, Khazarian, and I mean, look at their features of the
yeah,
Israelis. They're very different, even than from American Jews. But
yeah.
uh, let me just bounce back to what you were saying before, and I'd like to ask you. There was a really good song. We're around the same age, I think. Major Lance, I think, was his only hit. Monkey Time was the name of the song, and it
What
was
was
a
the name of it?
dance. Monkey Time.
Oh, yes.
You know it.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right. So the refrain in that song, I think it was a dance, like in the early 60s, late 50s,
yeah.
early 60s. And I have the 45. The dance that the people do, I don't know how it started. So this dance came out of somewhere. I don't know how it started or who started it or where it started, but it started. So I remember sending out a letter to Culture Wars maybe about a year ago. Where did this start amongst Jews? Again, we're not talking about the whole tribe that's afflicted with this tribalism, but it's just extremely common. Where did it start? You brought up the Babylonian Talmud. How did this start? This obsession, this belief that they're better than everybody. They're the chosen people. They have a morality, and everybody else has another morality. You're using words like goyim and shiksa. Where do you think this started,
Where do I think it
or how
started?
it started?
From it actually started in something called the Kabbalah, and it goes all the way back to the times of Moses, believe it or not. They've always had a false doctrine lurking in the shadows of the real true God. This is what the Bible is loaded with, the corrections that so many times God was so upset. And he told Moses one time, he said, why don't you just let me kill everybody? I'll start a new people with you, Moses. And Moses, out of the heart that he had, the most humble man, the Bible called him, the most humble man on the face of the earth, said, Lord, please don't do that. And God listened to Moses and spared the people. But I can't help but wonder, what would it have been like if Moses let him go ahead and do that? but so it
So you
started
think
in
the creators of the, however we say it, the Kabbalah or the Kabbalah, this is where
yeah,
this like we're better than everybody and started.
yeah, because they were the enlightened ones. They had the knowledge. They had they were illuminated, and they had the knowledge of the real God, because they say that God split in the beginning. And then God had this form and he had that form and he had many forms and that's where they get all of these. If you look up the tree of knowledge in the Kabbalah, it's all of these different gods and
Right.
goddesses, which people evangelicals, the Christian church, know very little to nothing about. They think they just are misguided about Jesus Christ. They have no idea. They always had a problem with God Himself. All right, so they made their own God. All right, and then they always had a form of worship, anything but God. Right, so they worship the calf, they worship Moloch, they worship anything, the sky, the sunrise. All right, all of these things they just
All
worship.
right, but I'm speaking more specifically about an ethnic worship of themselves, like, oh, the old adage from World War II. Uh, some Jews are debating whether America should fight in Europe. You know, there was the Lindbergh element that
Yep.
stay out, America first, the original
Yep.
America first. And then the
Hmm.
ones, oh, we got to get, you know, we got to stop the Nazis now, blah, 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 blah. So one Jew replies to another Jew, and, well, I know it's good for America, but is it good for the Jews? So it's always, not just good for America, but is it also
Yeah.
good for the Jews? Like, again, they are a separate entity and a separate people all the time that deserve this special treatment, special privileges. And
Yeah.
I,
They
I
see.
really, it's unknowable. I think
Yeah.
when this, I mean, we all have, I mean, I'm Irish
Yeah.
Italian, so we all have our ethnic affinities. Per se,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. You know, this
Yeah.
culture, history, language, all of that in our ethnic backgrounds. But the problem is when my people are right all the time and they're never wrong. You know, my people
Yeah.
let my country right or wrong. No,
Yeah.
right is right, wrong is wrong. But
Yeah.
the Israel lobby doesn't accept that. Their purpose is, again, to always fight for and defend whichever government is in Israel, doesn't matter. And that's
Yeah.
why I believe it's incumbent on us, especially as Christians, to oppose them, because I think that's the only thing they really fear
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
Christ and
They
those who
know.
really support his gospel. And
Hmm.
when people, I think even some of the so-called Christian Zionists, after learning about Gaza, said, wait a minute, you know, bombing churches,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
bombing refugee camps,
Hospitals. Yeah.
hospitals, food distribution centers, starving people. That, you know, America did wrong in World War II. There, you know, war is hell, and
Yeah.
wrong is committed by all governments in war, some more
Yeah.
so than others.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't make it right. We
Yeah.
look back and say that was wrong, and we shouldn't repeat it. And we
Yeah.
shouldn't support any government, regardless of their race or ethnicity, or even their religion. We shouldn't support horrible, acts of violence and death and destruction, you know, wanton destruction, totally unnecessary destruction. And this is why I believe Bibi and his gang have overplayed their hand. They thought they can always get away with it. They had their Israel lobby in America, which is much more powerful in America than in Israel.
Hmm. Yep. Exactly. They're fighting it in Israel, right?
Yes. So he finally went too far.
Yep.
And Charlie Kirk was turning, a lot of other people were turning. And so now they're trying to backtrack. Even Trump, when he said, my people,
Mm.
me and you are his people. Trump, my
Yeah.
people are turning on Israel.
Mm.
Well, it's not necessarily on the people in the government over there. I don't know if you saw Tucker Carlson's interview of U.S. Senator Cruz.
Oh yeah.
All right, so Carlson distinguished that, made no difference to Cruz, who's obviously Jewish, but Cuban
Yeah.
Jewish, at least
Yeah.
half. I think his father. And saying, having the temerity to say that Bibi Netanyahu is a personal friend of mine.
Mm.
Remember when he told Carlson that? He's a
Yeah.
personal friend. Here's a guy, all these arrest warrants out for war crimes, ordering the killing of innocent people in the most heinous, sickening way. And you brazenly admit that he's a personal friend. But all he's thinking about, Pastor, is again, my good friend Bibi, my people in Israel. And that overrides any other morality.
It overrides it. I got to tell you, a lot of it goes to the religious side. Number one, crooked American preachers like Schofield indoctrinated, paid, follow. He was rubbing shoulders with a lot of these, again, Jewish bigwigs in New York. I don't know. He's from Kansas. I don't know how he get to the Lotus Club in Manhattan. He was hanging out there, paid, and came up with this. Actually, it was a doctrine from Darby that he put the final touches on, and that's what put this foolishness into the American church, which has this thought that we have to do anything for Israel because those are God's people and that God wants us to be blessed. So if we want to be blessed, then, and even Cruz said that if we want to be blessed, then we have to bless Israel. They take
Genesis
this,
12:3.
yeah, they take that
Everything
out
is
of
Genesis
context.
12:3.
Yeah, and more people are actually going back and reading that and saying, "Wait a minute, he doesn't actually say that," you know. So, but God will bless people for blessing His people, right? But are these His people who are killing children, raping the rapes? There's a story, a recent story about a man being gang raped, and they recorded it just recently in the last month. I haven't seen the video, but I heard it's pretty gruesome. They show it. The Israeli army is raping a man, uh, not a woman. I mean, it's bad enough to rape anybody, but a man. They're raping a man. I mean, what kind of nonsense is this? So, and so is this God's people? No, no. This listen. I don't care who you are. You can be reverend, whoever. If you're killing and raping, you don't belong. You know what I mean? Sin is sin, all right? And God, yes, God can forgive sin. Where's the repentant heart in any of these people? They never did anything wrong. When have they said, you know what? Oh my goodness, I made a mistake. I was wrong. They don't say that. The proud arrogance inside, they never made a mistake. Netanyahu, if you ever seen him apologetic, that's the thing I don't like about Trump. The guy never makes a mistake. Never. He sounds just like him. Sounds just like him. So that
You see
bothers
all
me.
the photos of them together all the time. I just sent an email, a link to a photo, and I titled it "What a Lovely Couple." And there they are, like look like they're going to kiss each other.
Yeah.
So it's pretty obvious. Bibi and Mossad have a nice file on Trump,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if you don't behave, we'll leak something here to our friends at ABC,
Yeah.
owned by Disney, Jewish owned. We'll leak
Yep.
something to CNN, blah, 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 blah. And
CBS, which is now owned by his supposed friend Larry Ellison,
Ellison,
you know.
CBS.
So CBS, yep.
Yeah. And Barry Weiss, an admitted bisexual,
Yeah.
is going to be editor of news.
Wow.
I want to talk about
Incredible.
Jewish mafia. CBS had always been Jewish owned,
Yeah.
but it wasn't Jewish mafia. It was basically
Yeah.
a television network. Gave us The Honeymooners, The Twilight Zone, my two favorite shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now under Larry Ellison, David Ellison, and Barry Weiss,
Mm.
Larry Ellison
We'll
with
see.
his Oracle, and then
Mm.
Sammy Altman, homosexual,
Yep.
his Chat GBT AI. And
Mm.
is there, are you familiar with Culture Wars magazine, Pastor?
No, I'm not.
All right.
I
Go on
gotta get it.
culturewars.com. Fascinating background of E. Mike Jones. I've met him a couple of times, and
Okay.
he's Catholic from
Yep.
Philadelphia originally. And we'll get into this. They had an issue on the Liberty about 20 years ago, and I was able to get the last copies for
Yep.
about maybe 15 or 20 of them. And I gave some to some of the Liberty survivors or whatever. So there was a photo in an issue of a few months ago on Trump's first day back in the White House.
Yep.
He had three men.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Larry Ellison, Sam Altman, and the Japanese banker. Yep. I forget his name. And these guys are going to usher in, I'm paraphrasing, these guys are going to usher in America's new dawn. All this occult Masonic language he's using. The golden dawn is upon us. I wonder who's telling him to talk that way. And this is so quickly. He's got two Jews.
It's all lined up. Yeah.
Like ducks in a row.
Yep. It was all lined up. Amazing. Amazing. That was so eerie for me because I'm like, this is what you do on day one?
Yes.
Day one?
Right.
Wow. I could not believe it. I mean, it was the day after, but it was the day one on the job. After he won, right. Day one, I'm like, this is what you do? And I'm like, I can't believe this. I can't believe this.
You're just saying that. You really believe it. But knowing what we know and doing the work we do, it's you don't want to believe it.
I got to ask you this. All of a sudden today, after months of Trump saying, stop talking about this, Epstein file, it's a hoax, stop talking about it. Today, all of a sudden, like you said, they have something on him, right? I wonder if he got word that, hey, we'll hold this back. But just go ahead and tell him. Because today he's saying, release the files. Go ahead, release them all. With a little mustard behind his, he's saying it with his chest out, release them all. Go ahead. So I'm wondering, I'm like, did he get word that they're going to hold back what they have on him? Because we know he's in there too, a lot of these politicians are Republican, Democrats, everybody. Come on. Clintons, Obama, all of them are in there. All right. Maybe not Obama so much because I think he was
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
What my reaction to this is, how is he's been saying, get over it. I don't want those people supporting me anymore for me not wanting to keep them confidential. And well, who knows what they've done with the files also. They've had them now for how long, and who knows what they're going to release. But yes, his great turn is very suspicious. And maybe now, okay, here are the files. And who's to say where are all the files? Who has them? Who's in custody? It's government property. So
and the authenticity of them, right?
Well, but it's so obvious. And I don't know if we discussed this at the Liberty reunion, but we're both on the web and looking at photos and reading reports. And Trump in his younger days, especially like in his 30s, 40s, even into his 50s, not so much now, and ever since he's been president, but he has Jewish features all over his face.
Yeah.
His father obviously was Jewish. And his mom, we know, Scotch Presbyterian. So he was caught lying a couple of times that his daddy was born in Germany, Fred Trump. He was born right here in the Bronx. He made his money in real estate, and Jews made a lot of money in the Bronx, probably Brooklyn too, in real estate. And this is what Trump was born into. So he never really worked a job like we've worked jobs, you A&S, me civil service and transportation and the other jobs I've had. Per se, there's nothing wrong with that, but he was born into wealth. He's been around wealth his whole life. He's never really worked with his hands and got dirty. And he's created an image, a private life and a public life. So why he doesn't just come out and admit, yes, my dad was Jewish. Why? Why not? It's so obvious he was. So he said, no, he's born in Germany. USA Today searched the Bronx County records, and Fred Trump was born right here.
Wow.
And so Well, all right, they raised him Presbyterian. So he was obviously like a secular Jew or a non-practicing Jew, Fred Trump.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
money maybe was his God. That's where
Yeah.
he made his millions in real estate, wheeling and dealing, like Trump did. And then married McLeod. I think
Yep.
Mary McLeod was her first name.
Mm.
McLeod was her maiden name. So the Scotch, being a Presbyterian people, they raised him Presbyterian. Now, was he practicing Presbyterianism? I doubt it. He may have went to church, gone through all the ritualism and the formality, but deep down, has he converted? Has he ever converted to Judaism? Like Argentina's president, Milei, he did convert to Judaism. And they're very friendly. He sent down, was it 40 billion bucks of our money? First it was 20 billion, and then he sent another 20 billion, at least 20 billion, to Argentina for their elections to get Millei's party elected. And by Ducky, they won the elections. I mean, they have multiple parties. They didn't get a majority vote. But since when is America first? Nothing against Argentina, but since when is America first sending $20 billion down to a country to get their party elected? And so he's personal friends with this Millie. And they visited that rabbi's grave in Queens, Schneerson.
Schneerson, yeah.
And Millie did to get, and he obviously is a Kabbalist. He's even like alluded to it here and there, not come right out. So after Millie won his election for the presidency, he comes up from Argentina to visit the grave of Rabbi Schneerson with Trump at his side. Now, come on, no Christian.
Wow, I missed that one. Wow. I didn't know.
InformationLiberation.com, a few other sites, blacklistednews.com. We lost that site. I don't know if you're familiar. We lost them a couple of years ago, right before the 2024 election. And they had a lot of stuff that was reported locally, but it didn't go nationally. So, and you brought to my attention Trump making this sign when he's sitting on the edge of his seat, the capstone. They're going to put the capstone on the pyramid, the back of the dollar bill.
That's right.
The Freemasons and the Kabbalists, and this is who Trump deals with. And any mention of Christ or any practice of Christianity is just for the masses. It's just to put on an act.
It was just to get elected. He realizes that he wouldn't have gotten elected without America's evangelicals. Right. He wouldn't have gotten elected.
That's why he picked Pence as his running mate in 2016. The only reason why he picked Pence.
Exactly. And everybody that he picked for this cabinet, if they're Christian, they're Zionist Christians, right? Like that Paula White. There's not a bigger hoax in the world. That woman,
like Trump, thrice married.
Yeah, exactly. So, I can go into some personal stories about her, but that's not what I'm not going to do it. But she doesn't belong leading anybody anything.
Again, of all the people to pick for his what's faith counselor? Is that her title with Trump or something like that?
And then it sounds good. Oh, very first time. Oh, so it appeals to the evangelicals again. They're singing of Christian songs in the White House before meetings. Oh, that's wonderful. What are you living after you sing those songs? So I don't care what songs you sing. I want to know what you're living, what you're doing.
What are you
doing for the American people? Are you praying for the American people? How about some of these children in Gaza? The Christian thing, you don't see. Christ talked about taking care of the widows and the children. He had a special affection.
He didn't only say Jewish widows and children, all
women and children of any race, any background. So, where's she with that? Silent, just like most of the pastors in this country, silent for 2.5 years. They've been killing people in Gaza, just mowing them down. They got no place that right now. I guess they had a lot of rains just recently. There are people homeless in the rain as we sit here in our comfortable homes. There are people in the rain surviving, trying to survive. Starvation. They've killed aid workers delivering food because they didn't want to, they didn't want the people to eat, so they took out the workers. And the American pastor, and I got to tell you, now, I have very little respect for any pastor that has said nothing about this for 2 straight years. And there's not many that
Well,
has
it's
talked
mainly
about it.
the evangelical establishment, the likes of Frankie Graham. There's a
Yeah,
great example. I mean, I doubt his daddy, Billy Graham, would have supported what Frankie Graham
yeah,
basically is a Republican minister. He's
yeah,
not a
yep,
Christian minister anymore. Now, maybe
yeah,
he's changed, but Billy I used to watch him go on the crusades over
yep,
America and preach the gospel. And of course, we got Hagee down there in
yeah,
Texas and Bobby Jeffress, where Raphael Cruz, that's his real first name, Cruz, not Ted. Raphael Cruz goes to that church, First Baptist Church. They've traded the gospel of Christ for the worship of a people and their country. And you can't get more idolatrous and
yeah,
blasphemous than that. And Cruz, because again, from what we remember of the interview with Carlson, and he said, I was taught in Sunday school that I'll be blessed if I bless Israel. So
yeah,
I bless Israel. And what does that mean? Bless them, like support
yeah,
everything that every Israeli does. Look at Genesis 12:3. This is the only verse they rip out of context to
yeah,
support worship and idolatry of the Jewish state. I,
yeah,
quoting the Almighty, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. He said that to Abraham.
yeah,
Now, I don't have a degree in theology or Old Testament. I don't think you do either. But we've read the scripture, we've read the context, we read a bit of historical background on this and understood it, basically. There wasn't even a Jew born when
no,
he said that to Abraham.
yes,
Abraham had Isaac, Isaac
hmm,
had Jacob, and Jacob had Judah. He was the first Jew, Judah,
yes,
one of
yeah,
the 12 sons of Jacob, who became the 12 tribes of Israel. So
hmm,
when God the Father said to Abraham, I'll bless those who bless you, he was, first of all, speaking to him
yes,
personally, like Marge Green said, the blessing was
yep,
onto Abraham, leaving his home and
yep,
moving to the promised land. Fine. But the blessing was to all the people of
yeah,
Israel, not just the Jews. The Jews were one of 12 tribes. So
yeah,
they've taken that, ripped it out of context. Oh, it only applies to the Jews of Israel. And every Jew, why were they removed twice from their country? The Babylonians and then the Romans. If they were supposed to have this land forever, well, why did the Almighty allow them to be invaded and dispossessed out of their land? Because it's conditional. It's not,
yes,
oh, just because I'm Jewish, that
yeah,
means I have now this land forever. You have to earn it. You have to
yeah,
abide by the commandments. You have to worship no other gods. You don't practice the occult, witchcraft, the Kabbalah, or anything like that. You do,
yeah,
there'll be punishment. And that goes
yeah,
to all of us, but probably especially to them because they were to be a light unto the nations.
yeah. They carried the oracles of God.
Right.
And the whole point of that in Genesis, if you want to be you can teach that class in theology in college, okay? Because you know more about that than some of these pastors. What you just said, you broke it down the right way. First of all, the emphasis is on the blessing that's going to come from Abraham's seed. The blessing is talking about Jesus Christ. And if you really read that, it said, through your seed shall all nations,
Nations of the earth be blessed.
not, did it say just the Jews, or did it say just
Right,
Issachar,
right.
just
Reuben,
Simeon,
right.
just Reuben? No, all the families of the earth will be blessed. And when Jesus came, he told Nicodemus, he said, uh, you know, I am here to give life and give life more abundantly. And, that whole chapter 3 in John chapter 3, and he's just, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. This is the blessing that came onto the world through Abraham's
And
seed.
notice the so-called Christian Zionists, Hagee and Jeffress and probably Frankie Graham now, and the rest of them, bless Israel. We have to bless Israel. I don't even think they believe in John 3:16.
No, no, they can't.
It's a
They can't.
formality.
Yeah. Hagee actually says, and we got his book here, and he actually says in his book, I wanted to see what he says in the book in defense of Israel. So I know a little bit about him because I used to coach basketball for a school upstate New York, and he has a school at his church because he's loaded. Okay, yes,
I wonder where
mysteriously
the
is
money
loaded.
came from.
I wonder, he has a jet. How many people pastoring have a jet? The school is called Cornerstone, this
Like
Cornerstone
his
Church.
church.
And listen, you could eat off the floor in this place. All right. Eat off the floor. It's beautiful. Now, it's been 20 years since I've been there. It was brand new when I went there, brand spanking new. Um, so, and he says in his book, do not share the gospel with anybody Jewish. You're directly opposed to the scripture. We are to share the gospel with anybody who's willing to hear. We're not supposed to push it on anybody, but anybody who's willing to hear, we're supposed to share. And this is not, don't give it to the Jew. He's not good enough for the gospel. What? Oh, he
No.
doesn't need Jesus? Oh, okay. Bad theology, but yeah. So it's a lot wrong, but I'm not going to hold you any longer.
All right.
I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate when you get somebody. I don't know if if you feel this way, but when we have somebody that we can have common conversation with, without like, where'd you get that from?
Yeah.
Because you say things to some people. Who told you that? That's conspiracy stuff. When you
I
have
have an
that,
interesting quick
it's a
story to
blessing.
tell you
Go
on
ahead.
Long Island, somewhat related to what you just said. So you're familiar with Sag Harbor on Long Island, I think, or it's an
Yeah.
upscale town, beautiful place, beautiful horizons, and so there's a lot of money moving out there. And so anyway, I was there over summer, and I was in the town and saw a pro-Palestinian protest. Their flag and
Yeah.
signs "Stop the Genocide" right on the village green. And it's not a heavily Jewish town. There's some, but Billy Joel, I just found this out, has a house just a few blocks up from the village green. He's from the Bronx, if you didn't know,
Yeah.
originally. So I parked the car and got out, and right across from them was a pro-Israel protest. So the pro-Palestinian protesters outnumbered them. I'd say there were about 50, and the pro-Israel protesters were about 15. So I had a USS Liberty T-shirt on, and I went over and talked to some of the people on the Palestinian side. I found out in the place I went to later that this has been held. It was a Sunday, every Sunday all summer.
Oh
The
wow.
pro-Palestinian demonstration and the pro-Israel demonstration. And fortunately, there was no. I was pleasantly surprised to hear this. There was no violence or confrontation. There was no police presence.
Wow.
You know, that was in the city, Bronx, Brooklyn, anyway. There would have been 2 NYPD cars there to prevent. So they're short-staffed. Nobody wants to be a cop out there. You only have like a 12-men department in Sag Harbor. They can afford a 500-men department with the money there. So anyway, I came over to one of the pro-Israel protesters. He was a pretty nice guy, tall, may have been a basketball player, like 6'4", 6'5". So we had a flag where the American flag was merged with the Israel flag. Now, I've never seen that. I've seen like the dual flags
Yeah.
where the staffs are crossed.
Yeah.
So I think you're insulting both countries by doing that.
Yeah.
And blah, blah. So it was a civil discussion. Well, this Yenta had to come over and she's listening to me, and I won't go into everything what we were talking about, but well, where did you hear that? Where do you go for your news? In other words, oh, you're going to some bad people to get for some anti-Semitic people. So yes, we're used to that by now. And fortunately, again, that line is pretty much worn out because there's so much alternative and non-establishment sources. Granted, some of them are cranky, but as far as just straight news, even from Israeli papers, we're getting news about what's going on in Gaza. On West Bank, horrible attacks are occurring on West Bank by these fanatical Jewish settlers. And sure enough, the Israeli police and military respond sometimes, but very rarely is anybody arrested because, well, we know what the story is. This is Jewish tribalism par excellence. And it's something we have to fight tooth and nail, not just as Americans, but as Christians, because the Christian people of the Middle East are suffering horribly. And it's not right now from the Muslim extremists, it's from the Jewish extremists running the government of Israel.
Yeah. We'll never be taken over by Muslim extremists here in America, but we will be taken over by what's in Washington now is Israeli extremists.
Well, or Israeli, yes, the Israel lobby, or those who work for them directly or indirectly. Remember during the war on terror, everything was the jihadis are coming, Sharia law is coming, they're going to take us over. Muslims aren't even 1% of the population of the country. They don't run Hollywood. They don't run the U.S. Hollywood. Treasury. That's a people who are 1.5% of America's population, rounded off, 1.5%. And so that dog and pony show finally stopped. But how many horrible wars and how much innocent life? There's a group called Course of War Project at Brown University. 5 million people died from the so-called war on terror. 5 million. They weren't all Taliban, Al-Qaeda. They were simply people caught in the crossfire, like in Gaza, Iraq, all this. The Christian populations of Iraq, Syria, they've been devastated, partly by the Islamic terrorist groups too, but also the U.S. occupation under Bush, Cheney, and because this was good for Israel. The neoconservatives, I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yes.
So that's a Jewish mafia, and they have all this power and influence. They're in Trump's administration, again, not as bad as under Bush, Cheney. That's where they took over foreign policy, and look what they did. They enjoy death and destruction.
Death and destruction. Did we ever see the weapons of mass destruction? The answer is no.
And nobody was held accountable
minerals,
for those lies.
Stole minerals
that
from these
brought
places.
America and other countries. They get away with all of this because this lobby that we have read a book on by Jewish Americans, professors of political science with impeccable credentials, and their book has basically been just buried. It was a bestseller, but
Yeah.
it wasn't, it wasn't reviewed anywhere, in any
Yeah.
major, they weren't invited on major talk shows or anything.
Nope.
So here's this big elephant in Washington, D.C., right? Big
Yep.
elephant, and it doesn't exist. Don't
Yeah.
don't
They
believe
just
your
made
eyes.
it part of the silhouette. It's a
Well,
big elephant, but they just, oh, it's over there. But don't look, we got this other thing going. They
right,
don't want you to
distracting
know
us
about
from the elephant in the
it.
room.
Yeah, yeah,
And then again,
yeah.
St. Paul in the book of Titus, chapter 1, verse 13, he warned Titus about not giving heed to Jewish fables.
Jewish fables. Yes, sir.
Now,
You
some,
know your scriptures.
well, they're the important ones, I hope. I need to be better informed. I've forgotten a lot of them. But some translations have fictions, myths, basically lies.
Yep,
And here's
yep,
Paul, who was a Benjamite,
yep,
wasn't a Jew. I mean, they lived right near the Jews, and they
yep,
lived in Judah when it was the nation of Judah, when Christ
yeah,
was alive. But ethnically, he was, by tribe, he was a Benjamite. Romans
yep.
11, the first verses record that. So he lived with the Jews. He was a Pharisee himself, and a very
Hmm.
well educated man. And don't give heed to Jewish fables.
Yes.
So the Israel lobby is all about, and they work with Hollywood, which
Yeah.
can be good and present really good television, like I think we grew up with. And then it can
Yep.
produce garbage that
Yeah.
undermines the Christian family, Christian morality, a Christian society. So we're seeing more of this with each passing day.
Yeah.
Good news, Pastor, is they've taken a bloody nose for the first
Yeah.
time in a
Oh
while,
yeah.
the Israel lobby.
Oh
And
yeah.
may it get even more bloody, because if anybody deserves a bloody nose, it's the Israel lobby.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Well, sir, you've been a wonderful guest tonight. I'd love to have you back on at some point. Is there anywhere that you would like people to visit, or you do a website or a Twitter page or anything like that, or
Oh,
Rumble channel or whatever?
we have a
Uh,
Rumble channel. We actually have 3 Rumble channels.
ah,
Now, one we started up, I say we, because me and you are kind of old school, and this tech stuff
yes.
is another world to us. So my middle nephew is in the business, and
Gotcha.
he was able to do all of this. So Patriots Unite Now, we had on Worldwide Christian Radio for about 10 years, and a 1 hour broadcast every week. And for various reasons, decided to change it to Jesus Come Back.
Mm.
So we made that change around Labor Day, and it's on Monday. As we were trying to go live here, the first airing of it was on frequency 5.935 and off the website, wwcr.com. And then it's repeated at 2000 hours. We've always used military time on frequency 4.840.
Okay.
And Pastor, we took the title Jesus Come Back because I was at the diner table. It's the living room couch I'm sitting on now. And I was at the diner table doing paperwork or whatever. And I got a Radio Shack radio, and was tuning in some music, and got the Fairleigh Dickinson University station, WFDU, 89.1. So at this time, I think it was Sunday afternoon, they play like oldies, mainly 60s, 70s, maybe a little doo-wop also. So I hear this song, which maybe I never heard, or maybe I heard and I forgot. Baby Come Back. Baby,
Oh,
you
okay.
know the
Bee
song?
Gees, Bee Gees.
No, no. This was a very obscure group. They were a black-white group out of England called the Equals. And
Oh,
so now look this song up after we close out. Baby Come
baby, come
Back.
back.
It's only 2.5 minutes long. And here's the guy. It caught me right away. And that's
Wow.
really the whole chorus. He just, a guy's pleading for his girl to come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Baby, come back. Baby, come back. That's pretty much the whole chorus. So that was
Uh-huh.
really catchy, right? So then I went on the web. Now we can do it with the internet. So again, maybe I heard it. I'm 65 and a half. So when that song came out in 68, 67, 68, I was kind of young. So then it just hit me. With all this we're talking about, all this horrible stuff going on, and all these people who are so antichrist, and their motives are so impure and so diabolical, and human life is just meaningless to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, don't we need Jesus to come back, like right
Absolutely.
now? So that's why we renamed the broadcast. So we changed the focus away from the political and more towards the second coming of Christ, and also like current events, but watching the signs, watch what's going on. And there's a lot of false teaching on Bible prophecy. As you know, the Christian Zionists, they don't have Christ as the center of their end time ministries, but the nation of Israel.
Israel-centered theology.
When it's, as Christians, it's supposed to be a Christ-centered theology. When Christ gave the Olivet prophecy in Matthew 24 and Luke 21, Mark 13, he was, me, your followers of me, they're going to be persecuted. He didn't say nothing about the Jewish state or the state being recreated at another time. So 2,000 years for it to be recreated. And per se, there was nothing wrong with that. But to say that that is more important than Christ and his return, how abominable is that? And this is what a combination of Judaizers, Israel lobby operatives, but I think mainly Judaizers. They have gotten the likes of Hagee and Bobby Jeffress, and we can go on and on and on. They've gotten them to think that no, Christ is not as important as the Jewish people, as the Jewish state. They don't say this, of course, but they've basically persuaded them to believe that that's more important. Support in and belief in that is more important than believing in the living Christ. That's something that has to change.
Yeah, it has to change. Well, it changes with you and it changes with me. And the more we speak about it, the more we inform people, because what's in their most holy book is Christ is in hell roasting in hot excrement. Think about that. That's what's in their most holy book. And Hagee doesn't talk about that. So, but listen, we got to run. But we are so thankful for you coming on. And I'm just so when I saw that it was getting late, I thought we weren't going to get you, and then we had technical problems, and I thought I should let them go, and we'll do it another time. It's getting late, and so I'm just so grateful that you came on. And listen, we are any closing remarks before we go, and then we
Well,
can
we
end
still
in
got
a
about
word of prayer if
5 minutes
you like.
before 2000 when Jesus comes on WWCR, and I
Okay.
recorded it earlier in the day. So
Nice.
we still have Patriots Unite now on Rumble, but we also have Jesus Come Back. We haven't had a debut of it yet, hopefully before the end of the year. And then Christians Unite Now, which I haven't rumbled on that channel lately, but we have about 60 rumbles of that. Christian unity is so imperative for us. And I was born and raised Catholic, and I read my late brother's Cardinal Hayes New American Catholic Edition Bible at 19, and then I reread it. So it took about a year and a half to read all that, and I just noticed there was a lot of contradiction between what I was taught to do, in church or whatever, and what the scriptures are telling me. Praying on rosary beads. Christ said, "Don't repeat words when you pray." The Gentiles do that. And praying to statues, or sometimes worshiping statues. So paganism entered that church, and not just the Catholic Church. It's infiltrated also Judaism, or the Judaizers have infiltrated the Protestant, the evangelical, the Baptists, and that is just as bad, if not worse, than the pagans. So it's important for us regardless of denomination. Are you of any denomination right now?
Well, no, I call myself a Bible believing Christian because the one organization that we came out of a church. It's a Pentecostal church, and it's uh, apostolic Pentecostal. And I'm trying to be nice here, but even in that, it's all about and they're all about the original doctrine, which is fine, right? But they're a little obsessive, like with they're right and everybody else is wrong. That's what all Christian religions do. Every brand seems to put the other one down. So I said, I want to get away from that.
Good for
And I
you.
just I'm a Bible believing. If it's in the scripture, I try to live according to the scripture, the holy scriptures. That's what I try to live to. So I cannot call myself apostolic. I can't call myself Baptist. I can't, I have friends that are all of these things, family members, but I can't. And furthermore, a lot of the apostolics they believe this Israel is king as well. You know what I mean? So, and they believe this Schofield theology without knowing, they know some truth. Even the ones I know, they know some truth about these things, right? They know the Schofield doctrine was wrong, but yet they fall into it anyway. They fall into the
They
trap
still
anyway
accept
and
some of it.
without realizing it. And then they've fallen into the big thing now in all of these churches is taking on all of these Hebrew names for Jesus.
Yeshua,
I got a big problem with that because the angel told Mary, you shall
Jesus,
call his name Jesus.
and he
That's
shall
it.
save his people
His
from their
people.
sins.
That's it. Where did Yahshua come
The,
from?
the Judaizing, it's very simple.
Exactly.
He
Exactly.
was
But
more a
there's
Jew than Messiah. Yeah, he
exactly.
was ethnically that, but he was for all.
Yes.
That's one reason why the
Exactly.
Pharisees hated him. Let me
Yep.
ask you, where do the Pentecostals, as a church, as a national church, where do they stand on Israel and what the
The
relationship?
same thing. The same thing. Most of them believe the same thing that Schofield, the garbage that Schofield taught. They're all the same. But there are few that have woken up. All right. So, but most they do what their organizations do. They just follow what was taught. And the negatives are, see, with me, I came into the church with questions right away. And then I was pawned off on to somebody, oh, go talk to this elder over here. They'll set you straight. And then I get set straight and I'm like, yeah, but I don't, that's not what the scripture's really talking about here. So then I say, well, maybe it's just me. And then as years go on, guess what? The church made a change. I tell you what, the rapture theory, that was my first question. I'm like, this rapture theory, I'm not buying it. So I went to the pastor and I said, can you explain to me how this? Because you got to approach pastors, very sheepishly and do you mind telling me how this works? Because this scripture over here says this, it's confusing, sir. Oh, well, just go talk to him. And then I get set straight. And then guess what? 10 years later, that church had a revelation that the rapture wasn't a thing.
Maybe you
So I'm
planted a
like,
seed,
yeah, yeah.
right? We
Well,
always got to think that. The
yeah,
initial
but they
reaction might
never,
be, oh, you're crazy, oh, that's unbiblical, but planting the seed and hopefully it starts to grow.
well,
And
they met some other folks that knew better and they believed their word. All right. So they believed another organization. That's when I met Pastor Myers, actually. Pastor Myers, he was the from Wisconsin. They met him and a group that they met together at a conference. And then he ended up coming up, stayed here in New York a couple of times. And I remember having a few conversations with Pastor Myers. Here's a guy, he was a
Meyer,
seventh, huh?
Meyer, not Myers.
Meyer, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, seventh generation witch and
Oh,
just a beautiful spirit. And but that's when they got the revelation. No one ever remembered me saying anything
all right.
like
So they got
10
the
years
revelation
before
from him
from
about
him,
the rapture.
from about the rapture being fallen at the conference that they all. I don't know if you know Pastor Meyer, then maybe you know Evangelist Lance. Maybe no. Well, he was at this conference as well, and I really gravitated toward his teachings, and he was like, Israel is not, he was strongly against all of this Israel stuff. And so, but he was one that he evolved because at one point he was only against the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Then he realized, wait a minute, Israel trumps the Catholic. What the Catholic Church does, that's nothing compared to what Israel.
And a
So
lot of the evangelical establishment, Mike Jones kind of refreshed me on this. I mean, I always suspected it. But like you just said, their only enemy is the Catholic Church.
yeah.
So they formed an alliance with Jews.
Yes.
Against the Catholic Church. So say what we want. Again, the paganism that infiltrated the church over time, whatever. But at least there's a recognition of Christ.
Exactly.
And Christ has died. Christ is risen. Christ will come again. We were taught to, and how that's really powerful and hopeful for all of us, regardless of denomination. Christ has died. He rose. He's coming again. The Jews don't believe in him at all as a people. They don't believe in him. You are aligning yourselves with a people who reject Christ.
Yeah.
Now, the Catholics, all right, they pray to Mary too. Not all of them, but they pray to Mary and to the saints and all of that. But at least they are not a Christ rejecting people. They don't scorn him. They don't hate him like that lovely piece from the Talmud that you cited before. So, this is why the spirit of the Judaizer has infested so much of America's Christian culture, and probably for a long time. And again, we're talking, the Israel lobby is kind of part of this, because they've gotten so many Christians, especially the Baptists. Now you're seeing the Pentecostals, not so much the establishment Protestants like the Methodists, Presbyterians, Episcopalians. I think they're even kind of liberal. And even the Catholic Church has been kind of like balanced with the Mideast. They haven't been, like Hagee and Jefferson, those characters. So the people have to be reminded that Judaizing is Antichrist. It's that the spirit of Antichrist. We don't hate a people because of their ethnicity or even their country, but we don't want them. Paul warned about infiltrating the churches. I fear that the gospel you've been taught, you're going to fall for another gospel.
Exactly.
Well, isn't another gospel the Judaizer? Because he's going to tell you to reject Christ. And so we're confronted in so many different ways and so many false teachings out there. And the best thing to do for all of us is, regardless of denomination, not to do what you just mentioned, that unfortunately it's just to get them into my church, get them into my religion. Let's get them to accept the living Christ, and then you can find maybe a church or a denomination. But if there's ever a time, Pastor, for Christians to unite, regardless of their denomination, it's now. Because
now, absolutely. The division is what the enemy is capitalizing on. So you're absolutely right. Well, listen, we're out of time tonight, but we got to have you back on because I enjoyed this so much. I hope you enjoyed it too.
I did. Thank you. Despite the early difficulties, we worked it out.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I'm going to roll, and I want you to have a fantastic night. And this will be uploaded, and we will send you a link and everything, and we'll go from there. So thank you. And listen, thank you, folks. My guest today has been Ken Reynolds. Is it with an S on the end? Reynolds?
Yes.
Okay,
Let's say
Reynolds
Ken
from
from
the
the
Bronx.
Bronx.
From the Bronx. So we thank him for coming on, and God bless him. And thank you for tuning in tonight. And God bless you. And remember, stay in the battle. God bless you, Ken.
Thank
Have
you,
a good one.
Pastor. See you next time.
Yes, sir.
Good night.
Yes, sir.